Okay, so this time we will be talking about ordering numbers. So our goal will be to compare real numbers. So when we talk about comparing, then we know that we will be including inequality. So an inequality is a mathematical sentence that compares the values of two expressions in an inequality symbols. And there are four inequality symbols that we use. We have less than and less than or equal to. And then the other two will be greater than and greater than or equal to. Now, before I continue to the next slide, I would just like to highlight, okay? Miss, I'm still confused about less than and greater than. Just always remember, the one that looks like the letter L, okay? That's the letter L, okay? That is the less than. All right, the one that looks like the letter L is the less than. Okay, let's continue. So how are we going to compare? What is the inequality that compares the square root of 7 and 4 and 1/3? Now, as you can see, both of these numbers are in different forms. Square root of 7 is a radical, 4 and 1/3 is a mixed number. So whenever you are comparing numbers, it is important that you put them or you change them in a way that you can easily compare them. And I would greatly suggest that you can change them both to their decimal form, okay? So in the case of the square root of 7, if you're going to estimate, this is definitely less than the square root of 9. And what is the square root of 9? The square root of 9 is going to be 3. So we know that square root of 7 is going to be somewhere around 2 point something, all right? So imagine comparing a value that is 2 point something, and you are comparing it with 4 and 1/3. I think even if we do not change 4 and 1/3 into a decimal form, this is pretty obvious already to see that this is going to be a less than, all right? So that's one thing that you can do, all right? Let's go on to the next example. So compare each numbers using the inequality symbol. So we have two of these, all right? So here we have 9.6 and the square root of 96. So if we're going to use the estimation for the square root of 96, this value is definitely less than the square root of 100. And we already know that the square root of 100 is 10, okay? So from here, from this estimation, we can think of square root of 96 to be something as 9 point something. Now, it's unfortunate that the number we are comparing it with also has 9 point, and so in this scenario, it will be good to check the exact value of 9.6, okay? The square root of 96, I should say. So if you check with your calculator, the exact value of the square root of 96 is 9.8, all right? So if you're now going to compare over here, you have 9.6, 9.6, and this is around 9.8, then we know that 9.8 is higher. So again, this is going to be a less than. So same thing here. Now, one thing that I would like to highlight is that we are comparing negatives, okay? When you are comparing negatives, what happens there? You gotta make sure that when you're comparing negatives, those values, the values are inverted, meaning the higher the number is, if it is negative, the smaller its value, all right? So in this case, this is negative 3.1. Negative 16 over 5, if you do a quick division of that, and I can do it here on the side. So 16 over 5, that's going to be a 3, 15, that's a 1, put another 0, that's going to be a 3.2, okay? So here, we are comparing negative 3.1, and this value is negative 3.2. And if you have negative numbers, the higher the value, the lesser it is. And so this number, negative 3.1, is greater than negative 16 over 5. Okay? So I have here the other two examples. I would like you to try it out on your own and see, write your answers here. Which one is greater than, less than, or equal to? Go ahead, try it out on your own. Okay, so if you're going to see, you should have a less than comparison here, and these two values will be equal to each other. So let's proceed. What now if we have multiple numbers? How are we going to arrange them? So typically when we are arranging, we start from the lowest value on the left side and then the highest value on the right side, unless it is specified in the question that you need to arrange it from highest to lowest, okay? Since this question didn't mention anything, we'll just arrange it from smallest to greatest. Now, what I have mentioned earlier is that it will be a lot easier for you, I'm sorry for that, it will be a lot easier for you to compare these numbers or order these numbers if they are in the same format. So, like I said, I would highly suggest you change them all in decimal form. So the square root of 4, let's start with that. So the square root of 4 is actually 2, okay? 0.4, well, it's already 0.4, no problem with that. Negative 2/3, if you change negative 2/3 into decimal, it will be negative 0.66, actually it's going to be repeating. The square root of square root of 2, if you get a specific value of it, you will have something like 1 point something, all right? And then your last value to compare is negative 1.5, which is, okay, it's negative 1.5. So as you can see now, it will be a lot easier for you to compare these numbers. So let's start writing them down here. Our lowest value would be the negative and the highest numeric. So in this case, we have two negatives, 0.66 and negative 1.5. So negative 1.5 is the smallest. Okay. And then followed by negative 0.66. So now we have the positive numbers, of course. Our positives are 0.4, 1 point something, and the 2. The smallest of these three would be 0.4. Followed by, of course, the 1 point something, and then the biggest number that we have is 2. Okay? So, is this the correct order now? Yes, but since our given are in this form, we have to write these values to their original one. So, negative 1.5 is, well, it's negative 1.5. Okay? The negative 0.66 is the negative 2/3. Alright? 0.4, well, it is given as 0.4. 1 point something is our square root of 2. And then we have the number 2. Now, it also mentioned here in the title that we need to graph it. Now, when we're graphing, we're just going to be using our number line. So, just draw your number line. Your reference will always be 0. Okay? So, we have negative 1.5 is here. Let me use a different ink. Okay, negative 1.5 is here. Oh, sorry, 1.5. Negative 2/3 will be somewhere here. Sorry, I lost my pen. Over here, negative 2/3. Okay. 0.4 is somewhere here. And this is 1. So, square root of 2 is here. And then 2 is going to be over here. So, that is how you can order, okay, and graph your numbers. Okay, so let's try the next examples. We are supposed to arrange these numbers from least to greatest. So we have two sets of numbers. I would like you to try these ones on your own. Go ahead. All right, so if you compare, if you rewrite all these numbers in one form, so in decimal form. These are their corresponding values. And from here, you can arrange them in this order, okay? So, to summarize, numbers can be classified by their characteristics, and some types of numbers can be represented on the number line. Thank you.